I've been asked recently to do a video about a topic which is scaring a lot of people and potentially changing their travel plans when it comes to China. It seems there's another deadly mosquito-borne virus spreading like wildfire across the country, and people are genuinely concerned for their health and safety. But is this really a problem that people should be concerned about? Is this anything new? Or is this just the China haters back in action? Let's talk about it. 大家好，我是 Surat 在中国. Hey everyone, it's Surat in China. How y'all doing today? I hope you're having a lovely day. I am having a simply terrific day over here in China, and no fear of mosquitoes here. Let me tell you, we're going to break down some of the numbers, and we're going to talk about something that might even be a more pressing concern right in your backyard. But for now, I just wanted to say thank you so much. It's so fantastic to see so many of my new subscribers, viewers, and supporters. I've got new members joining. I've got new people buying me a cup of coffee, hitting one of those links down below, and a lot more people have decided to help the channel grow by simply hitting that subscribe button below and throwing me a thumbs up if you like the videos. It really does go a long way in sharing my videos with more people. And I really just want to say thanks so much to everybody for your help. I very, very much appreciate it. But now, let's talk about mosquitoes. Now, mosquitoes are a pain in the butt. They suck, literally. I don't know anybody other than bats and birds that love mosquitoes, and that's only because they eat them. Mosquitoes are a huge problem all over the world, and I'm not even just talking about places that have very serious diseases like malaria. Recently, news stories and videos have been coming out talking about the chikungunya virus, which is spread by mosquitoes and has infected some people in China. If you listen to the Haterade, they're going to tell you that this is a brand new threat and it's infecting 17 people an hour. Where are you even getting that number from? Just literally pulling a Trump and making numbers up out of the top of your head. But whatever. They're claiming that there are thousands and thousands and thousands of new cases of this deadly chikungunya virus spreading all across China. And it's to the point that some governments, including the Canadian and American governments, have put out travel advisories because of this deadly disease. But is it really that deadly? Has anybody in China this year died from chikungunya? No. Not one single reported death. Not one. Now, depending on the news source or anti-news source you may be listening to, some people are saying there's thousands of cases. Other official numbers are coming in at 1,000 to 2,000. But in the absolute worst case scenario, the number theoretically now is 8,000 cases of chikungunya in China right now. A record high level. But is this new? Is this a brand new disease that nobody's ever heard of before? Absolutely not. This virus has been around since the 1950s, and it does not just affect Africa, Asia, and other hot countries. This virus is also common in places like, oh, I don't know, America, Canada, Europe, Australia. This is not an isolated incident. So when you see these big threatening thumbnails on YouTube videos saying, oh my God, China's dying from this horrible disease, take it with a grain of salt. Now let's take a look at what this disease, this virus, is actually all about. I'm going to go over here to Wikipedia and we're going to have a quick look here. Now, chikungunya is an infection caused by the chikungunya virus. The disease was first identified in 1952 in Tanzania and named based on the Kimakonde words for to become contorted. Chikungunya has become a global health concern, global, not China, Due to its rapid geographic expansion, recurrent outbreaks, and lack of effective antiviral treatments. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, but let's look at a little bit more detail of what happens when you do actually get this virus. Okay, so it is an infectious disease. The symptoms of these disease are fever, joint pain, headache, muscle pain, joint swelling, and rash. Complications can include long-term joint pain, not death, long-term joint pain, and that's with complications. Okay, so the usual onset is 2 to 14 days after exposure, and the duration is usually less than a week. It's caused by mosquitoes. They can do a blood test and search for the antibodies. Is there a virus? Is there any medicine to take for this? No, because it typically just goes away. Now, the prognosis, the risk of death, is 1 in 1,000 people. Okay, so that is a very, very low risk of death. Now, if we look at the cases of chikungunya in China right now, and we're going to take the worst case scenario, that being 8,000 cases. Okay, so China is a country of 1.4 billion with a B. So if we work out the actual percentage of the population who has been infected by this massive outbreak of this disease, the actual percentage is 0.00057%. That's a lot of zeros, people. 0.00057%. The actual death rate from this disease in 2025, 0 deaths, not even one. So that brings the death rate to 0%. Nobody has died from the 8,000 infected people. So is this really such a huge risk? Couldn't there be bigger risks out there? Like, oh, I don't know, West Nile virus, which is also spread by mosquitoes and very common in places like Canada and America. As a matter of fact, let's take a look at West Nile virus. West Nile fever comes from that virus. West Nile fever is an infection by the West Nile virus, which is typically spread by mosquitoes. In about 80% of infections, people have few or no symptoms, thank goodness. But about 20% of people develop a fever, headache, vomiting, or a rash. In less than 1% of people, encephalitis or meningitis occurs, with associated neck stiffness, confusion, or seizures. Seizures. Recovery may take weeks to months. The risk of death among those in whom the nervous system is affected is about 10%. Think about that. 10% risk of death for those unfortunate few people that do have the more complicated symptoms, right? So if we look at the kind of breakdown, symptoms are either none or fever, headache, vomiting, diarrhea, muscle aches, and rash. Complications include encephalitis and meningitis. Usual onset takes 2 to 14 days. Duration, weeks to months. Okay, so West Nile spread by mosquitoes. The risk factors are infants, the elderly, and weak immune system, etc. Treatment is supportive care. Pain medication, there's not a lot they can do for that either. And the prognosis is 10% risk of death among those seriously affected. 10% risk of death among those who are seriously affected. That is frightening. Now, if we look at the total cases this year, 2025, in America, there were 320 cases identified so far. Now, 320, that's a lot smaller than 8,000. That's true. However, the United States also has, more than 1 billion less people than China does. The actual rate of infected population is 0.094%, which is a huge number compared to 0.00057%, wouldn't you say? I'd say so. And on top of that, the United States has already this year reported its first death based on West Nile virus. So that brings their death rate from this virus to 0.312%. Now, again, the death rate in China is 0%. The death rate in America is 0.3125%. Now, I know this is nitpicking. It's only one guy in the entire country. But my issue is not with the actual numbers themselves, but just how far these unscrupulous China-hating content creators will go to spread this false narrative about China just to scare people away. They really don't want people knowing the truth. They would like people to believe that China is being decimated by deadly plagues all the time. Every time there's a case of the flu, people get the sniffles. Once again, 0.00057% of the population have got this disease. And they got better in less than a week with no medication. However, in America, 0.094% of the people were infected with West Nile virus, and somebody has already died from it. And it takes 2 weeks to months to get over it. Which place would you rather go visit? A place where you have a higher percentage of getting sick, a longer duration of time you're going to be sick, and a higher probability of dying from that mosquito-borne illness? So when you see these crap videos and news stories, take it with a grain of salt, because even the government is in on this hate. When Canada and America start issuing travel advisories about going to see China, it has nothing to do with the actual risk to the travelers who are coming here. It is much more so the risk of people coming here and seeing the difference in the life here and comparing it to the shitty lives that they experience back in their own countries. And that's why this China hate exists. So there you go. I was asked by one of my great viewers to talk about this mosquito-borne crazy virus going on in China. Am I worried about it? No. Not at all. It's not a big deal. Like I said, with such a low number of people actually being infected, my chances of getting that virus, which is not lethal and not deadly, are lower than me winning the lottery. So I'm not going to lose any sleep over it, nor should you. But thank you once again for joining me today in my video, and thanks again for the question, because it's those kind of questions that lead me to make these videos so that I can share my experiences and share some of this knowledge with all of my fantastic viewers. But as always, I will see you in the next video. Zai Jen.